Rodrigo Gutierrez, and today I'm going to be showing you my presentation on the history and tactics of the drug trade. So, for my introduction, the drug trade is one of the most prominent illegal markets in the world. One of the primary marketplaces of the drug trade is the United States of America. The Drug Enforcement Administration was created to suppress the amount of illegal drugs that enter and circulate the U.S. by sending law enforcement to confiscate drugs and eliminate drug leaders. So the Drug Enforcement Agency didn't just operate inside of the U.S., but it also operated in foreign countries to eliminate foreign drugs that may enter the U.S. or foreign drug leaders. They also worked with Border Control to prevent drug guns, drug money, and, of course, drugs from entering and leaving the U.S. So, the beginning. The drug trade began in the 1960s in Latin American countries such as Mexico, Peru, Venezuela, and even Cuba would produce and illegally ship drugs to the U.S. But in the beginning, the drug trade was especially popular in Colombia, specifically in the city of Medellin. The Medellin cartel was founded in Colombia in 1982 and popularized cocaine production on a large scale. This organization was a pioneer for drug cartels today because of its organization and secrecy and the tactics that they use to get the drugs from Colombia into the U.S. So we're going to go over that in a bit. So Pablo Escobar was the main leader of the three main leaders of the Medellin cartel. He was the most public and most prominent leader. He actually dabbled in politics and tried to gain governmental positions, but was rejected because of his status as a drug trafficker. He also participated in philanthropy to gain the respect and approval of the Colombian population, regardless of his, once again, status of being a drug trafficker. So Carlos later was also another founder of the Medellin cartel. He was the one who brought in the innovation and unique methods of trafficking drugs into the U.S. So what he did was he used a private aircraft that was modified to only carry one person, and they stuffed it with as much cocaine as possible, and they would fly it to the U.S., and they were the first people to do this, fly cocaine in a private aircraft. And they made a lot of money, and over time they got other pilots to do this. And yeah, Jorge Ochoa was in charge of the distribution and management of the lower branches inside of Colombia. He would oversee all of that. He would manage the lower managers and so on. So, the Medellin cartel operations. A popular method of drug trafficking popularized by the Medellin cartel was trafficking by private aircraft. They almost exclusively produced and shipped cocaine due to it being more compact and profitable than its common predecessor, marijuana. So cocaine was a lot more addictive, it was easier to store, and it was more expensive than marijuana, so they made a lot more money on that. And also, what they did was they would pressure Peruvian farmers into farming the coca leaf by paying them, because these poor farmers don't have much of another choice because these cartels are violent and they're bribing them with a lot of money, so they need to feed their families, so these farmers end up helping the cartel leaders. So, the death of Escobar. So, as the prominence of the Medellin cartel increased, the U.S. began to notice. Because of the noticeably larger amounts of illegal drugs entering the country, the U.S. wanted to get rid of the problem at the source. So, they went after Escobar. America sent the Drug Enforcement Agency to catch Escobar, who was the most prominent and public of the three leaders of the Medellin cartel. The thing about Escobar was, because of the amount of money that he was making by trafficking these drugs, he was a billionaire, and he owned many houses across Colombia, and he was able to hop from one house to another, so it was quite unpredictable for law enforcement to find him. And they were on a hunt for years to find him because Pablo Escobar had men everywhere and had eyes everywhere. So they needed to find new methods of finding him. So they decided to intercept radio calls from Escobar or from his henchmen to figure out his whereabouts. And in 1993, they found where he was staying which was an apartment in the middle of Medellin. And he was in this apartment. They raided the apartment. One of his henchmen was there, and it resulted in a shootout, which resulted in the death of Pablo and his henchmen. So, because of Pablo's death, the prominence of the Medellin cartel decreased tremendously, and the Cali cartel took over, which was another Colombian cartel. The Cali cartel was the more low-key counterpart of the Colombian cartels. They were the successors of the Medellin cartel after the death of Escobar, and the three main leaders were Gilberto Orejuela, Miguel Orejuela, and Pacho Herrera. Due to their more passive and secretive nature compared to the Medellin cartel, the leaders were more widely known as businessmen because of their deceptive money laundering. They would buy businesses and say that they earned the money off of the businesses, but they were in reality making their money off of drug trafficking. The Mexican cartels. So the Mexican cartels, they have a lot more versatility and efficiency when it comes to drug smuggling due to their distance from the United States. One method of drug smuggling that was used by the Sinaloa cartel was the tunneling method. This method was not only used to smuggle drugs across the U.S., but it was also used to break former Sinaloa cartel leader El Chapo out of jail. Drugs in the Middle East. So Latin America isn't the only major place the drug trade is associated with. There's evidence of collaboration between drug traffickers and Middle Eastern terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda. The DEA has also received multi-source information that the infamous former Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden has been involved in financing and facilitating heroin trafficking activities. America's domestic response. The drug trade fuels drug abuse among Americans at an astronomical level, and the American government has created ways to weaken this illegal market. This can include drug busting and confiscating by the DEA within and outside the country. It can also include less forceful contributions, such as PSA announcements by the government and rehabilitation programs created by the government to stop people from being addicted to these drugs and contributing to the problem. So in conclusion, the drug trade has affected so many things in American society despite its operations mostly being outside of America. It has led to increased police funding and new tactics used to take drugs down at their source. Regardless of these new ideas created to weaken the drug trade, these organizations simply just have too much demand for product that will not end anytime soon. So here are my references. Thank you so much.